All right, good day, people of the interwebs. I want to show you today some tips and tricks that I discovered hanging these Govee Pro lights. There's a bunch of videos out there to show you how to install them, but I'm going to show you some things that I wish I would have known before I started, so it can make your life a little easier. Before I continue, I'd like to say please hit the subscribe and like buttons. That really helps me out a lot. And again, this is for the Govee Pros. First, I want to talk about the hardware that everything came with. These screws and clips that were supplied are garbage. Take a look at how small these screws are, the head. This is just, just get rid of them. And these are the clips. They're kind of big and bulky. They have double-sided tape as well as a screw hole. Let me show you the screws that I used. These are self-tapping screws with a hex head. I should also mention that I was actually going into aluminum soffits. A lot of people were going into wood. That is obviously really easy. You just zip it in. Aluminum's a little different. It's easy to strip when you go in and everything. But imagine having this tiny screw, holding it there, and trying to either drive it into the wood or into the aluminum soffits like I was. Instead, I have this hex nut on this self-tapping screw. I got a magnetic bit. And keep in mind, if you're up in a ladder, on a ladder and trying to do this, you don't have a whole lot of hands free. You put this in there, that is not going anywhere. A head like this, I don't care if you have a magnetic Phillips tip, it's not holding on to it. So this is secure while I can hold a wire and clip in the other hand, and I can zip this right in. That's the way to go. And again, self-tapping, hex head, and then get a magnetic driver bit. These are half-inch ones that I used, number 6 by half. They worked great. Don't even save these screws for anything. Just chuck them. They are garbage. Absolute garbage. Onto the clips. These are the clips that are supplied. Again, the double-sided tape on the back and a hole for the screw. These are bulky. I was not crazy about these. I used a few of them and figured there's got to be something better I can use out there. That's when I grabbed these 1/4-inch nylon cable clamps from Home Depot. See how they're much less bulky, and I can take that, run the wire into it, of course, to hide it, and have that screw going in there, magnetic to my driver bit. You can zip that right in one-handed. Where I was placing these, I have grooves in those aluminum soffits. So I could put this right in one of those grooves, drill that screw in there, and make this whole thing just about completely disappear. It was really, really easy using these. Then there are some spots where you're putting these lights up and you want to get them really deep into some of the corners, and you would not really be able to get a screwdriver or a drill to get over there and zip them in. So I got these off Amazon, these 3M clips. They're similar to these, how they have the double-sided backing, but they're a lot less bulkier, almost half the size of these guys. And I could put these deep into the corners to keep a wire out of the way when I couldn't use a screw. Those were great. One of the other things I used, this is pretty basic, but you want to clean off those soffits or wherever you're putting these on, because if you have anything with the double-sided tape, it has to be a clean surface. I saw some people getting up there with rags and alcohol on the ladder, and what a mess. You get these little alcohol prep pads. They're super cheap. I got a box of 100 of them for next to nothing. They're super easy. But that's the screws and the clips. And I, if I would have known about those before I started, I would have saved a lot of time, because before I even opened up the box with the Govee lights in there, I would have went to Home Depot and got these. That was a lifesaver. One of the other things I used were these Wago lever nuts. This is a neat little deal here. Put this one wire into the other end and you connect it over here. Why I like these instead of the wire nuts, as I'm running these Govee wires, I wanted them all in a line. I didn't want to have two wires coming up in a wire nut. They even have Govee connectors where they come up together like parallel and connect. Well, I'm running this wire and I'm wanting it to continue straight. I didn't want to have that ugliness on my roof or hanging down from my soffits. That's where this is going to come in handy. If you don't have one of these and you're going to be splicing your Govee lights, which you're probably going to if you got the Govee Pros, go buy one of these. Watch how easy this is. So I have 3 wires running inside of this exterior insulation. I can take my wire, put it right in there. That's step 1. Now I have these 3 color-coded wires. Again, one shot I can do this. Now I have them stripped. I can twist these wires up here so they'll go into one of these connectors. Flip this up. And there we go. They seem to be pretty secure. I've never used these before, but like I said, I did want them in line. These are not waterproof. You'll want to get what they call the Wago gel box. Just what it says. It's a box. It has some pretty heavy duty gel on the inside of it. So I got one that holds 3 because I have 3 wires that I used from these Govee Pros. You set them in there, close the box, that gel kind of squirts out and moves all around, gets in there, coats everything, and you have a waterproof connection. Pretty easy. So that's about it with the hardware, I believe, that I ended up using and swapping out, and some of the tools with that magnetic driver nut and this wire strippers here. Next we'll go and look at some of the things that I actually did while I was installing them. Again, things I wish I would have known before I started doing this install here. Now this is just one real quick thing that I talked about a little bit earlier. I have one of those clips going right into the groove on the soffit, and you can see how it's hidden. It almost totally disappears. Now another thing that I did when I was starting this and I was not thinking properly, I had the screw for the clip turned around so that the screw would be visible on this side of the soffit and of this side of the wire, and it was ugly. I'll show you a little bit of that, and I only did a few of them. I'm going to go back and redo them. It is harder, of course, to get your drill all the way back close. It's worth it. Do it. So here you can see I used 2 of those clips that came with the Govee set. Look how big and bulky those are. I mean, they just look horrible up there. And I also have the screw away from the wall on this too, so it's even more visible. It's not hidden at all. I'm going to come back and redo these. That looks like garbage. Here's another thing I did on the first corner I took that I do not like and I will be redoing. You know, if I came out here and I'm running these lights straight, I get to this corner piece and then I have this wire coming off at the end to connect to my next Govee. Well, if I run that straight, look at that wire sticking out still, and then I have to bend it back there. That looks like trash. So I did that once before I was really thinking. And then on the next one, I set the light at a 45-degree angle. Makes the wires much nicer looking, and just makes for a more easier to use too, because when you have that hard bend in it, they just don't want to go that way. Now here's one that I did at a 45-degree angle, and you can see those wires, how much easier it was to run those in a straight line from each side because it's on a 45. That's what I ended up doing, definitely the way to go. One of the other things I did, I saw people getting up and down off of these ladders with a tape measure, measuring for each one of these lights how far they're going to put it away from the wall. And that's ridiculous. That's a lot more work than you need to do. So what I did, I happened to just be looking through the garage to find something about the right size that I could just use to put up against the wall and then put up against the light as I'm hanging it so that they would be the same distance on each line. You can cut a piece of wood. I ended up finding this little plastic piece here. That worked great. I just held this up against the wall and got it the same every time. Now, after I did that, what really would have been easiest, and I can't believe I didn't do this, I'm kind of embarrassed that I didn't think of this first, run a chalk line, from one side to the other, snap it, and problem solved. I mean, super easy there. Just make sure you use the right type of chalk line. The red one's permanent. You want to use the blue because you don't want to have a red line up there for, the next 10 years looking at it. All right, one last thing I'm going to share with you that I did is, you see how I have the edge of those soffits there are black and I have the white going underneath it. I painted the wire black wherever it's going around there, so that, because these look like garbage during the day. I got to tell you, I am not happy with the way they look during the day. I'll get used to it, I'm sure, but I just don't like the looks of that. Actually, I'll talk about that in a second too. But what I did is I painted the wires black there, my eaves, where it's appropriate. You can see how I got that. Now, when you paint these, they're wires, so they're bendable. What I used was not primer first. There's a product called Adhesion Promoter. It's kind of like primer, but I found that it works much better on like shiny plastic surfaces than a primer does. All right, one other thing, like I just said, I am really not happy with the way these look during the day. Now, I know not everybody's going to be looking up under your roof to check for that kind of stuff, but I kind of take pride in my house and I want everything to look as good as it can. So I found, and I believe they're not made by Govee. Someone else started making these, but they make these track kits and install kits that would run and hide this wire. I've seen a few different types. Some actually hold the light, and then you have track covering the wire. They're not cheap though, the ones that I saw. And if you're watching this video, it's probably, you're trying to save some money to do this on your own. So that's something you may not want to do. What I am going to do though, is I'm going to get some stuff from Home Depot, where you just those channeling where you can hide the wires and stuff like that. And I'm going to cover everything just from light to light. When I have that done, I may post that too. But I think that's gonna tidy everything up really nice. That's it. I hope these tips help. Like I said, it's not an install video. There's plenty out there for that. Those are just a few things that I wish I would have known before I started, and a few supplies to get before I started. Hope that helps. Thanks again.